Hi everybody. So this next topic that we're going to discuss is expressions and properties of numbers. So first of all, expressions. Let's talk about the parts of an expression and what an expression actually is. The first part of an expression is the variable. Variable is a letter or symbol that represents a number. This is commonly known as whatever x or y is in an expression or equation. Then the next thing we need to know is a constant. A constant is a real number, which we discussed earlier. It's basically just a number. There's no letter, it's just a number. A constant is frequently used as the coefficient. A coefficient is an also really important word that we should know. Coefficient is a special constant that a variable is multiplied by. So basically, this is the number that goes in front of a variable. We'll see this in examples in a bit. Now, what is an expression altogether? An expression is a group of numbers, variables, and mathematical symbols. But however, there is no equal sign. The big difference between an expression and an equation is that an equation has an equal sign when an expression does not. So let's just break this down. Over here we have some examples of equations. So we can look at it and break it down for its parts. 2 pi r can be considered an expression amongst a larger equation of c equals 2 pi r. This is actually the equation for finding circumference of something. C and r are variables. They're the letters. When 2 pi, which is a real number, although it's not rational, it's irrational because it's multiplied by pi, it is a real number. So this real number is the coefficient, the number that comes before a variable or is multiplied by the variable. Then 2 and pi are the real numbers, so they are the constants. This next one is just a generic equation again. 4 equals 2x plus 8. 2 is the coefficient, it's a special constant. And 8 is also, oops, I forgot to mention that. 8 is also a constant in this. Then x is the variable, it is the letter. So now let's think about something that we're going to learn how to do. Substituting. Substituting is to plug in the value of a variable into an expression or equation. So how do we substitute? Well, usually we're going to be given what x or y, or x and y are equal to, or whatever the variables are in that expression or equation, then we would be asked to solve the expression. For example, here, x equals 2, y equals 3. So we're going to put 2 in the place of x over here, and then 3 in the place of y over here. Then 3 times 2 equals 6. 6 times 3 equals 18. We're multiplying the value of each of the variables by their respective coefficients. Then we're going to get 24 altogether. So let's try a few of these examples. 2x plus 3y. Well, 2 will then be multiplied by the value of the variable, 1. Then the coefficient 3 will then be multiplied by the value of the variable, 2 for y. Then together we're going to get 2 times 1 is 2, plus 3 times 2 is 6. The value of this expression altogether is 8. Here we have another one. Ooh, this one has a negative. Let's keep an eye on that. Negative. The value of the variable of y is 1, plus 3 is the coefficient, times by the value of 2. So now 1 plus 3 times 2 is 6, negative 7. Let's move on up. Here we have an absolute value one. Oh, we learned about absolute value last time. So we're going to keep the negative. Absolute value of 4 is the coefficient, times by negative 2, the value of the variable x, minus 2 is a coefficient of y, which has a value of 4. Negative, and then, negative absolute value of negative 8 minus another 8. Which is absolute value of negative 16, which then goes to negative 16. Last one, we have 3 times by the value of, oh look, we have no x, so we're just going to keep x here, and this is going to be an expression that turns into just another expression, plus 2 times the value of y, which is negative 4. Here we're going to have 3x minus 8. We can distribute, we're going to talk about what that means in a little bit. Distribute in that 3 minus 24. Now, let's go to distributive and all these different properties. First, this is how I learned how to memorize the properties by this, I don't know what you want to call it, mnemonic AGCO. AGCO represents the different properties. So first we have associative, which is grouping. Then we have commutative, which is order. So let's dive into this. These are the properties of adding and multiplying. The associative property is an expression. It states that an expression remains equivalent despite changing its grouping. So that's the AG part of AGCO. For example, we have A plus B in parentheses plus C is going to be A plus B plus C in parentheses. And then we can do the same thing with multiplying because these are for both adding and multiplying. A times B is in parentheses times by C equals A times in parentheses B times C. Then the next one we have is commutative property. Commutative talks about order, changing the order. An expression remains equivalent despite changing its order. So that's the co part of AGCO. And so here we have A plus B would equal B plus A, and A times B equals B times A. So let's practice this a little bit. Rewrite these expressions. So this one has grouping. So AG, this would mean this is using the associative property. Associative. So we're just going to change the grouping on this expression. 3x plus, now we're going to change the grouping, so we're going to move the parentheses over here, parentheses 7y plus 8z. Great. Now this one, we're going to change the order of it, co. So this is commutative. Commutative. So here, we're just going to rewrite it as 8y times it by 6x. Same thing, just different order. Cool. So the next one we're going to be talking about, I think the next lesson we're going to be talking about, yes, distributive property. So yes, distributive property is what we used here. Tune in for our next video to learn about that. See you guys.